Okay, so it's on the hour, so I guess let's get going. Wait a few minutes for people to show up, but I'll start recording.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Hi
Justin.
there. Just FYI, I've made a few updates to the notes or the agenda in the GitHub repo. There's some extra points that I added there. Hopefully Donald can join us this week, but we'll see if he turns up.
Yes, I just saw you added Erigon.
Yeah, fingers crossed they're receptive to that, and that'll be a major benefit if we could get it working with ETC. Oh, hey, Donald.
What's up?
Yeah, good, thanks. We're just going to wait a few minutes till we kick things off, usually at about 5 past, and we can go from there.
No problem.
Thanks for sharing my response in the chat. Seems to have gotten some interest at that point.
You're welcome. It's so good. It's excellent. The analysis is perfect.
I appreciate that. Still no response from a lot of the questions on that.
Or
Hopefully,
for the client.
yeah, for the Erigon client, but also just a response to the withdrawal in terms of like where ETC is at from the co-op.
And no response from Bob, you mean?
Correct.
Well, it's a holiday season, so maybe we can push that in January.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we can get things going at this point. Shall we start from the top, I guess? The last week we were, sorry, the week before Bob, we were trying to figure out to get some guests in on a regular basis for Q&A, so we can kind of, instead of just having a free open discussion, it would be more like the Q&A that we had with Bob, because I think that really worked and got a lot of attention. So we're thinking of creating a short list of people in the ETC community or active members that might be worth doing a Q&A with.
For starting, I think we should get in January. Maybe we should get someone who used to work for ETC Labs, because the developers have moved to ETC Cop, and maybe we can have one of them just to keep some sort of balance.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a
it's
good
a
idea.
good idea.
Do you know of any
I'll try
specific?
to. Maybe Chris or Isaac.
Cool. I've not really interacted with the client devs much, so it would be good to have them on for sure.
We could have Chris or Isaac to talk about Corget, Diego to talk about Besu.
Cool. They're both working at ETC Co-op at the moment.
Yes, the three of them.
With Corget being the main client, I think it will be also good to have them just before the fork.
Right, perfect. When is that scheduled for? It's mid-January or something.
No, I've looked it up today, and it's on 10th of February, but it's not really a sure thing.
Yeah, they were having a problem because Ethereum's last fork, I don't remember the name, included the change of the fees, fee burning, and all that. And the fork in ETC is going to be the same, but without including that. But the changes are interrelated. So it was difficult to not do the fee change. So they were trying to find a way to neutralize the opcode or whatever is the EIP of the fee change specifically, so that it's there inside ETC, but without actually changing the fee model. So yeah, they were trying to solve that.
Right, and in order to maintain contract backwards compatibility or cross compatibility, they needed the opcode in. Yeah. Okay, yeah, well, definitely it would be good to. I think a developer from the guest team would be awesome. So let's try and reach out.
I also think that you, Istora, should be one guest.
Am I going to be asking myself the questions, or?
No, somebody else could be asking the questions, and because your paper, Ethereum Classic, for me it's so fundamental, and also your response as a follow-up is equally important. And I think your thoughts and questions to you, for example, why you see decentralizations as the core value, in contrast to what many of us do, which is we look at Solana and Ethereum 2 and Cardano and we say, oh, we would love to be like them, but we would love to have money like them. We would love to have, I don't know, projects like them. We would love to be like them. But in reality, ETC has a totally different value proposition. So I think that conversation would be great to have with you.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. So I'll add myself to the shortlist.
You can also keep yourself for a debate, because you really see it how it is, and have great thoughts about the state of ETC. So if something comes up, like we had the treasury, and you wrote that article about it, that paper about it, maybe have when times come, maybe you can participate in a debate.
Yes.
I guess it's definitely possible. I'm definitely comfortable with doing the writing offline, and I can take as long as I want. I'm not sure how good I am in debate scenarios. Never really done them, but I'll be open to looking at that.
Okay, so it's settled for core development from etc labs.
Yeah, I think that'd be good if we could get something in before the fork. Yeah, so either next week or the week after would be ideal.
Okay, I'll ask around.
Awesome, thank you. So next on the list of items is to recap on last week's call with Bob, and if there's any general impressions of how that went, maybe we could improve for future interviews, or if there's any either commentary on the debate itself or the structure, that'd be great to hear.
The call was very okay. It went well. I think Bob was very honest about his wording about etc. I was just doing now from that video, I'm doing some bullet points because I was thinking adding them to the website, to the blog post, just to have a short summary of the video. And I'm also working on editing that video to remove some pauses, some stuff from it to make it more enjoyable.
That's a great idea, thanks. I wonder if with regards to the notes and like bullet point generation, it would be possible to somehow take the transcript from YouTube and automatically generate that in future to make it like I know there is like summary generation AI things that you can do, but never done it myself, so that might be an option.
I think the better way is to do it just by hand. I'll send you an example. I used to do this when I was working in television. You had the live declarations, and I was writing the main thing that I was hearing, making bullet points, and from there I was writing articles.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, if there's anything, if there's nothing else on that, let's move to the next topic, which is this.
Sorry, I think the call itself, the structure, and everything was perfect. Bob as a speaker, and you had the basic pre-written questions, and then open for questions. That structure, I think everything went well. Then Bob himself, I think he expressed sincerely his posture, his opinion about the macro situation in etc. I do think that he has, which this I have said in many on social media and in videos, etc. He has a sort of I don't know if to call it pessimistic or negative, but just like skeptical point of view, which is good to have skeptical people in the community. But I don't know whether such an alpha participant like ETC Co-op and the executive director of the ETC Co-op who have this like low image of ETC is good in terms of communications, non-marketing, and I don't know how he's gonna sell ETC to anyone with his postures. His posture is basically the typical negative things about ETC. There's no money, there's no roadmap. That was new for me. He said that there's no roadmap. there's no research, and we have many challenges. So me being a sales person, and I sell technology to multinational corporations, etc. If we talk about ETC with that posture, I'm not going to sell anything to anyone. No wonder the ETC co-op doesn't get any money from anyone else except Barry Silbert. But yeah, I think that whether, digamos, although that posture is sincere and it's true, I mean, in the sense that we have $4 million, we don't have $400 million like other projects. I don't think that we don't have a roadmap is true. But it's true that we don't have dedicated researchers and stuff like that. We inherit research from other projects, and that we have many challenges, primarily the bloat challenge, the technical challenge. But I don't think that's the full story. I mean, there's a whole other story about Ethereum Classic, which is what you have written, for example, Istora, which is that Ethereum Classic is Pearl in the sense that there's only another project that is as decentralized as ETC, which is Bitcoin, and this is unique, and that has incredible value, and that by itself is an incredible value proposition. And by itself, as it's discovered in the market in the future, ETC is very likely going to grow organically, like it's doing so now. So yeah, my general opinion is that he has a one-sided negative or skeptical view of ETC, and I don't understand why he doesn't see the other side. No.
Yeah, I think that's a fair commentary, and yeah, there was a fair amount of honesty in the conversation we had. To be fair, though, I do believe that at least in the context of a community call, honesty is probably the best thing for it. And if in that call it was overly salesy and not really being fully honest, then I don't know if that would have been better or worse. I don't know how Bob is outwardly talking about ETC to external sources, but at least in the context of that community call, I think it was the correct tone, because that's what it's like.
Overall, he mentioned the problems that we have and the updates and some of the stats that we had this year. So it seems pessimistic, but overall honesty and making COP look for solutions to those problems. He talked about the community fund. He talked about Checkak. He talked about Rivet, RSP endpoint. The work on Bets on CoreGet will continue. Now we know that 2 more developers will join COP. He also compared ETC with other chains and the funds they are having for developing new stuff in the blockchain industry. So overall, it's not okay. Maybe he's not a salesperson, but I think he really touched the most interesting points that that we need to address next year.
Yes, I agree. I think that it was very positive. The information that Ethereum 2 in the end is not going to have sharding initially, and that the same technology of Ethereum 1 is basically going to continue. So that research and downstream benefit that ETC always had is going to continue. So that dissipates a little the we don't have money problem and we don't have research problem, because we're going to continue to import the good research and innovation from that source. No, EVM, the EVM standard, that was very good news for me. The other thing that was very good news was the idea of TurboGet, Erigon, and I think that intuitively, I think it should be a priority for ETC for the ETC co-op to create a module for ETC in that client, because if it's so efficient, it syncs 24 to 48 hours. I saw on their GitHub the Ethereum blockchain, so ETC is going to do it in hours, and the storage, for some reason, it's also significantly reduced. So it is definitely good news if we can, if ETC co-op or the devs can build the ETC module for that, and even if we migrate 100% to that node in the future. So that's an example of something in the roadmap. The commentary that we don't have a roadmap, I think it was weird.
Yeah, on the topic. Sorry, go ahead, bro.
He also stated that they will make some expenditures to hire, or I don't know, a research skilled guy. He also said that we don't have any research now, but that may change in the future.
Yeah, that's also positive.
On the topic of roadmap, I think it's a kind of interesting concept in a decentralized system, especially when there is no, like, does Bitcoin have a roadmap per se, or is it just a bunch of researchers and whatever happens to be good at the time gets implemented?
That's a good point. Yeah, Bitcoin has nothing official, zero, not even a BTC cooperative, nothing, zero. It's totally, that part of Bitcoin is totally decentralized. What happens in Bitcoin is that within core developer circles, and then the core community around those circles, they usually have one or two future changes that everybody agrees with. Like 90% are, yeah, we should do this. Before it was SegWit, and that was the roadmap, SegWit, 4 years ago, and this year it was Taproot, and everybody rallied. But that's absolutely, it's like a roadmap that is just produced by organic interaction between them. And I think in ETC is more or less the same.
Right. I remember before we had like when all the teams were working together in like 2019, there was a fixed roadmap, and it was like by Q3 we will have this, by Q4 we'll have that. But I'm not sure if that makes sense for such a amorphous like development future. So maybe the roadmap question is more of a, I don't know. It sounds like it's needed, but that's from like a, if it was a company, sure, but it's not a company.
Yeah, no, when I say roadmap, I don't mean a formal anything or a constitutional kind of thing, or just there's clearly one thing that ETC does, and that is an implicit, generally agreed kind of thing that is a roadmap that we're going to follow the EVM standard. So whatever your soft or hard forks in the EVM standard, like we've been doing, is part of our roadmap. The other thing is that ETC has something specific that has been talked about since 2019, which is SHA3, and he even mentioned SHA3. Yeah, that's something that we should do, and we should do it after Ethereum moved to Ethereum 2. So those two things are a mini roadmap, and it's not official or anything like that. It's just a generally accepted thing, which we could call roadmap just to give it a name. Then, bueno, I think other people have been talking constantly about the ECIP process in itself is an indication of a roadmap, and we have their Fly client, for example, and we can add now TurboGeth. I just thought that if somebody tells me, Donald, ETC doesn't have a roadmap, it sounds to me very strange, because I mean, for me, in my mind, my brain, it's very clear that we have SHA3, for example.
Right. There's a big difference between not having goals and a direction, and not having like an official like outline of exactly what's going to happen.
Yep.
We kind of brushed on this topic just now with the whole Erigon thing, but I wanted to sort of share something I was thinking about with this and TurboGeth, and I think it's definitely a good thing that we should be doing. But one potential concern is the potential centralization, and whether there's any issues with having TurboGeth as opposed to like the other full clients, and whether it's a replacement for a full client, or whether there's just like zero drawbacks and it's purely just a better data structure. Like I know with FastSync, for example, there is some trade-off in terms of decentralization, or at least like guarantee. So I think we need to be careful if we put all our eggs in one basket on a client, if there is any kind of drawback.
Agree.
Overall, he has mentioned that CoreGeth will continue, or Get will continue in Ethereum, so it may be the main client overall.
When you say it will continue in Ethereum, that means as part of Ethereum 2.0, right?
Yes.
That's true, but the problem is that ETC still needs to maintain an ETC version of that, and it's a fork that's not really, it's not, as far as I understand, really easy to just like pull stuff from the upstream branch, because you have to be quite selective about what code gets implemented and is compatible with ETC.
Yes, that is true.
I think the what's really needed is just a full kind of investigation into what the pros and cons are, if there are any. We know very little about it, I think, at this point. So whilst it's definitely a good thing if it solves those problems, let's make sure it's the right thing. And on that note, I made an issue on the Erigon GitHub repository asking what the next steps might be to get ETC integrated, and suggested it's probably likely we'd be able to help fund that in some way, either by finding our own developers or funding directly with the existing development team, potentially with ETC. So hopefully we'll hear back from them soon. And given that they do not have the same kind of, I guess, baggage that the CoreGeth team has with Ethereum, with Ethereum Classic, they might be more open to working with it. Oh, and it might help if you have a GitHub account, if you go into the issue and, I don't know, thumbs up it to show some support, and hopefully that will encourage them to respond.
I'll join in.
Are there any other comments on CoreGeth or, sorry, TurboGeth / Erigon before we move on?
Did you put the link on the general channel?
Yeah, there is a link, I believe, in
To
the
your
community
comment.
course. There's a particular markdown file which I can paste in again in general. Yeah, it looks like Bro already pasted that markdown file, which has inside it the link to the issue that people can follow and thumbs up if they have the time. Okay, so the next point is on this ETC cult withdrawal thing, and I guess I wanted to. It seems like there's general agreement in terms of of a potential path forward for ETC in terms of focusing more on core client development and trying to extend the length of maintaining one client in order to hopefully get to a point where ETC is kind of self-sustaining. And I was wondering if there's any other commentary or things that should be added if we try and, I don't know, and how we can, I don't know, convince Bob or whoever is in charge of these decisions to see things from this point of view.
Can you explain the basic idea? I think that you said something like you posed a question. Okay, what is basic maintenance, core maintenance, and what budget would that need versus
Yeah, exactly.
versus all the projects that the only entity has money, which is the ETC co-op, is burning cash on, no? Which is instead of having one developer, they have three, they have two clients. They're maintaining several other things like Block Scout and donating money to other teams that are maintaining things for ETC. So your opinion is that there is a real core essential cost on a yearly base. Then there's a lot of nice to haves, and you would like to differentiate that and really focus the money on the core things.
Yeah, with the caveat that it's not necessarily about not spending on nice to haves, especially if there's some really good value for money to be gotten there, but at least ring fence a certain budget for having like a reasonable runway for the core stuff, right? Instead of like the core question, I guess, would be like how many years can Ethereum Classic survive on $4 million and or whatever future amount comes in? And is that long enough? And if it's not, like, how can it be optimized? I kind of feel like that at least a few years of development could be guaranteed with 4 mil, even if it's just hiring one developer full time just for one client to keep it on life support. It seems like that's the kind of thing that could be covered by that amount. And even if it's not, having a budget in mind would allow other means of raising funds to achieve those requirements, such as like fundraising or I don't know, like an NFT sale or something, right? So it kind of feels like we're just sort of flying blind at the moment and getting panicked about something that we don't really know how much of a problem actually is.
That's very true. I think then there's 3 tiers. I don't know if you agree, but so the first tier is a super core. Okay, let's maintain one client, one developer, and that's the only thing we're gonna do. No? Then there's a second tier, which is okay, let's do these other infrastructure things. Maybe maintain another client and maintain the block explorer and an API system with nodes like Ether cluster. So that's a second tier, non-essential, but very good to have infrastructure because the market needs infrastructure. And then there's a third tier, which is less necessary, which is okay. Let's do grants for dApps and let's help people with NFTs and or let's finance a team to build bridges, layer 2 bridges with other chains. Would you agree that we have those 3 tiers?
Yep, pretty much exactly nailed it. And I'd also add into the third tier things like marketing and education, that kind of stuff.
Marketing, yeah, our education, etc. Bueno, I
Conferences.
think there's a strong bias in the community in general to have fear or be stressed because we don't have money for the tier 3. And why do many of us have that stress? Because we see that all the other chains are going up in price, etc., like Avalanche and Ethereum 2 and all the bells and whistles of the POS shitcoins. And we would love to have the same marketing and the same grants and throwing money at Uniswap so they build on ETC and all that. So we really have a strong bias for that. And that may divert funds from the ETC cooperative in the future. Or at least it's a constant pressure, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But I feel it's something that should be resisted, especially if the math doesn't work out in terms of, well, you can spend all this money on trying to build a dApp ecosystem artificially, but if you then run out of money and you can't afford to maintain a client, then it all goes to waste, right?
Yes. There was talk when we were debating the treasury that a team of 12 people, including developers, researchers, etc., would cost $3 million a year. So that is more or less $250,000 per head. So Core 1, apparently, I don't know much about these things, but apparently it should be $250,000 a year. So if the ETC co-op could set aside $1.25 million and say, okay, this is my core and this money is sacred and we're going to have this developer, that would last at least 5 years if that information is true. And then they would have the rest of the $4 million to do other non-core things.
I think that's a really good concrete suggestion that I endorse. Yeah, it's good. The only thing is, it's a little bit sensitive because we don't work for ETC Co-op and we're not really in control of those budgets. We can only make suggestions, but I think that's a very prudent position.
Bueno, regarding that, I also I always saw the ETC Co-op and ETC Labs and IOHK. They were doing their thing, and Barry Silbert and Grayscale, they do their thing. This is decentralized. We're not their boss. They're not our boss, so we cannot demand anything. But now it's a little bit of a different situation because the ETC Co-op has concentrated everything, no? And whatever they do and how they spend their money, it affects the general community much more than before. So I totally agree. I mean, it's their money, and we can only do suggestions. But there is a little bit more, I think, of ability to the community to more or less hear us. That's my feeling.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think ETC Co-op are good stewards of the community and are doing the right thing. And I think they're open, as we've seen recently, to well-reasoned arguments. And I think as long as we nicely and reasonably put forward a case as to having, as you say, a core important long-term budget, I think they might be open to that, but who knows? Or maybe you don't have to be so nice, but that's my start.
I think they they should also look for partnerships. The industry is growing very much. More and more blockchains are appearing. So finding that path that leads to interoperability should really um, they should really look forward to that. Finding partnerships, maybe teaming up for projects with other teams.
What kind of projects do you have in mind?
Well, now I'm reading a lot about Filecoin because I'm also a network administrator. So I know what Microsoft is doing with Azure and Windows Server, and I know how hard it is to safely secure data and make it available for branches and intercontinental companies. Like if you have a company that runs on 3 continents, it's really hard to secure that data and make it available for all to use. And in 2020, there were some really bad cyber attacks. Like the US got it really, really bad. And I think overall, data management and securing it will be a focus point for major companies next year or the years to come. So there's really a place for ETC having this security with mass and with a possible increase of hash rate to, I don't know, develop stuff that may help companies to secure their assets overall.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware that companies like Microsoft and others have been showing massive interest in blockchains in general. Uh, I know there were sponsors of Ethereum in the early days, I believe, for some of the conferences and stuff. Um, the question is, are Microsoft interested in Ethereum Classic? And should they be? And I mean, it's definitely, Ethereum Classic is neutral to everyone, hopefully. But if all the action is happening on Ethereum, why would Microsoft care about Ethereum Classic?
Well, economics are telling that you need to find cheap solutions for your purpose, to be more efficient, to have better costs. With the ETC being way cheaper than Ethereum, I think overall it can bring efficiency to companies who are seeking new ways of developing and securing companies.
That sounds reasonable. Um, that being said, I think that uh, if if Ethereum Classic does get popular, which it will do, hopefully, um, the the edge that it has in terms of low cost will disappear because it will just have the same exact scaling problem as Ethereum, which will still have that same problem after 2.0. So I guess is it likely that a company like Microsoft would see the value in code is law and immutability? And is there a way for us to create a narrative specifically for those kind of corporate use cases above just the smart contract hype and stuff, or whatever's going on Ethereum?
Because I work with multinationals, my firm, we sell data and artificial intelligence solutions, planning solutions, and now we're adding blockchain. I am the blockchain lead, so I've spoken to several organizations, like a big four telecom company, top management, one of the big two logistics companies, etc. And for now, they're all doing what the media companies were doing in the 90s, that tried to create their intranets and their closed networks like AOL at the time, for people, because they thought that people were not going to use the open internet, and they were going to join these these big closed networks like AOL, CompuServe, Prodigy at the time. You can Google them. So they're doing the same now. They're trying to do these private blockchains. They're using Hyperledger Fabric as the base technology. And then there is a couple of other blockchains, one by IBM, and they're testing things. I saw some used with those technologies, but each node in the network is permissioned. So they join the shipping company, the container company, the seller, the buyer, the whole value chain, and each one has a node, but it's a permission node. It's not even proof of stake. It's proof of authority. So I haven't seen for now that large corporations using Azure and IBM Cloud, etc., for blockchain are using Bitcoin, Ethereum, not even Ethereum. So that's some color about that.
Thanks for that. I do wonder whether there is a potential use case, or whether it's just going to be a completely parallel sort of institution on these decentralized chains, as opposed to getting adoption from the old system. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but I mean, hopefully.
They they also want to start tokenizing everything. So even stocks and all sort of things. And they may be going and use Hyperledger. I saw that in the European blockchain conference. Maybe if you know more, Don, about this whole idea of tokenizing everything and having blockchain for the supply chains.
Yes. For now, the live example that I've seen, they joined a car company, logistics company, shipping companies, and the car dealers in the destination countries, for example. And this is a live proof of authority blockchain. And when there is an order to buy a single car in Mexico in a dealer, the information goes to the shipping company, the logistics company, and the car producer, say in Germany. Then the car is separated. It's put in a container. He moves the container to the shipping company. The shipping company ships it to Mexico. Then the logistics company moves it from the port to the dealer, and the customer goes and gets the car. So all of that is visible, and you can see it inside this blockchain. But again, it's a permission blockchain. So, and and that's the first use case. It's only informational. All each step in the, say that there's, no, say 50 steps. Each step is sent as a transaction into that blockchain, so all the participants know exactly where the car is, etc. Even if there's errors, they can correct them. Sometimes, I don't know, it's in the wrong ship, so they take it out of the ship and put it in another ship, or it's the wrong color car. All those things, they have, everything is planned and very well, almost executed. But in this particular private chain, blockchain, the only thing that they did is informational. So there's no token. The car is not tokenized. The container is not tokenized. The ship is not tokenized. They only enter transactions to see what is the state of that vehicle and they don't have tokens to pay or anything. So what they were saying is that the next level, once they feel comfortable with this, they're gonna add a currency, which I'm sure what they mean is a central bank digital currency, not a cryptocurrency, into the blockchain. So in the future, this flow in the value chain is going to include payments. So the product goes in one direction and the payments go in the other direction. And then in the third, or in the future stage, they're going to tokenize everything, and they were NFTs and how NFTs can be used to represent a car, for example. So that was more or less what we taught.
Can I ask what is the justification then of using a blockchain as opposed to some other more efficient data structure, like a traditional database or like a hash chain?
Well, this is what I told them, and this you were doing this. This is equally centralized, and you were doing this with AWS, which is much more efficient, and you don't have to wait for the transactions to confirm, and you don't have to run a node or anything. You just go to a website and see the. So it doesn't make any sense. It's exactly as pointless as AOL was in the 1990s, or Prodigy, or CompuServe. I think that all these attempts are going to fail. I think that Hyperledger Fabric is going to fail. Nobody's going to use it in the future. I think that whatever services IBM and Microsoft are providing for private blockchains are going to fail. Just like before, they tried to make the private web and it failed, and now everybody uses the public web. Bueno, I think this is going to fail. It doesn't make any sense. And they're all going to move to real blockchains. And I think that the proof of stake shitcoins like Ethereum 2 are going to be used for high performance, high volume transactions, and Bitcoin and ETC are going to be used for the large settlements and large value contracts.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree that I just don't see the point in using those kind of. I mean, you need a blockchain because it's uncensorable, and if it's centralized, then you can just update it as you want. So, do they at least have an excuse as to why they're using a blockchain, or some kind of narrative as to why they're using it?
Yes. From what I saw, they want to use the blockchain to track everything, like Donald said about the car. Now that car has many components. They want to track every piece of metal in that car and find a way to move the industry to a carbon-free state. So for doing that, you need a lot of data, that can be shared with everyone who is involved, and also you need to track the data. And when you have the final product, you can surely know how that product came to exist. So you have everything from every supplier, from every worker, from everyone, and that may give that data will be used to make more informed decisions about what to produce, what not to produce, who will buy, who will not buy, and all sort of stuff.
Okay, well, that's a reasonable excuse, I guess. I don't buy it personally. I just think there's better data structures.
They are trying to do this with the big pharma now, like putting your health information on blockchain, so that you have an easy access, and so that when you need health, you can track your health data. Medics can, or hospitals can, track your health data and better know what to do.
Can I add something, Istora?
Go ahead.
The only good idea that I've heard talking to these people that we're not working on yet is this multinational telephone company. And one of them, this was incredible, because usually they have these centralist ideas. Oh no, let's do a private chain. We're not going to use Ethereum or Bitcoin. We're going to do our own private chain. That's the mistake. I think that's just a bias, and it's going to go away when they fail. But one of them had an incredible idea, which is, okay, we have cell phone towers, thousands everywhere in the world, and we pay the local electricity bill where each tower is. If there's a tower in Oklahoma, we pay Oklahoma electricity. If there's a tower in I don't know, in Colombia, we pay the local electricity bill. Now they're migrating to solar, so they can have free electricity. And this guy had the idea, why don't we put a chip mining Bitcoin in each tower, and each tower not only we're going to have this solar electricity or from the local source, but the tower is going to mine Bitcoin, and each tower is going to pay for its electricity that way, and even create a revenue for us. And I thought it was a great idea. Imagine a telephone company putting in each tower a Bitcoin miner. So it reduces the amortization cost and the cost of each tower. I thought it was a brilliant idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
And ETC would be perfect for that, I think.
Yeah, especially after SHA3, so you don't need to stick a graphics card up there. Yeah.
Yep.
Another benefit of SHA3. Okay, well, we're approaching the hour now. I mean, we can open up for anyone if you want to join some open discussion. If not, we can bring it to a close.
Okay, Istora, what is the full scope of these community calls? I haven't been really paying attention. Is it just informal, whatever is on our mind?
Yeah, exactly. It started off with basically zero goal, just a chit chat, and we're trying to kind of intersperse having guests for Q&A. So every other week or so, we'll try and do a Q&A style thing, but otherwise it's just open discussion and updates. And I guess there's various different sort of organic goals that we're creating as we're doing this discussion and trying to focusing on problems and fixing them.
Cool deal.
Okay, so final call. If anyone wants to bring anything up, feel free.
Yeah, last second, I just heard you and Don mention just briefly SHA3 at the end. What is the status of Alex's participation with us? Is he coming back, or is he sort of faded away? But like, is he going to have a role in that? Does anyone know?
I only know that he was working at Bloomberg, like he said in the video I did with him about SHA3, and that he didn't have time to volunteer in blockchains, etc. But he was following from afar the SHA3 project.
Because we don't need an actual individual to make it succeed. We have smart enough people to make it happen. But wasn't he standing up a test infrastructure? What was the name of that SHA3 testnet that he was sort of standing
Pascal?
up? Yeah, is that necessary to continue to operate, to test things on if we move forward with SHA3? That's why I keep referencing him. He was very focal in the whole SHA3 discussion over time, but I've seen him sort of disappear, you know? So we don't need to rely on one individual person, but he was doing substantial work in a testnet. And I'm just wondering what the role of that testnet is going to be if we move forward with this.
From my knowledge, the two clients, Beso and Korgeth, are ready for have already been testing SHA3. So at one of the dev calls, the only thing that needs to be done now is to do a bigger test for SHA3, like forking the network and see how it runs, and maybe make a switch on and off for it, and see how that goes. But that's the only thing I know.
Who's speaking? Is this you, brother?
Yes.
Yeah. So Astora, do we have complete confidence from you and others that the clients are indeed ready to support SHA3 if community, quote unquote, reaches consensus to move forward with it? Are we good to go if we head that path?
So just for the record, I'm not a core client developer, so it's not really my field. As far as I understand, SHA3 is good to go if and when it needs to go, assuming that the clients that it's implemented in are still maintained when it's good to go. But as far as I understand, the current, from Bob's discussion, it seems like the current plan is to wait at least until Ethereum 2.0 switches to proof of stake, so that the miners can all join ETC and then slowly move over, so that we don't disrupt that potential benefit of getting miners over.
But from like a buggy code analysis perspective, just that's what I was, referring to when I was talking about the Astor testnet. I'm just thinking in the back of my head as we move forward, what is the buggy code status, if we move forward with it? I'm sure we'll have processes in place, but, I'm just worried about, obscure bugs popping up if we move forward with that. What are our processes to make sure, we don't reach any kind of disastrous issues when that's pushed out, because I'm not a protocol engineer, but I'm just worried in the back of my mind as we go forward with that, the little bugs that everyone always thinks about in the back of their head, where when we pushed future patches in the past, we had AFRI, closely monitoring, for forks and all of that. That was very good support and experience with them. It's just I'm pretty confident we'll have the right minds watching it. It's just that's one little area out of all the things we track, in the community, is obscure bugs popping out when we roll out SHA3. I'm probably obsessing on it too much, but I think it's very critical that we, watch for code weirdness, as we get closer to that date.
That's
Yeah, I
why
agree.
that's why it's this need to have a on-off switch.
When you say on-off switch, as in the ability to switch back and forth between SHA3 and Ethash?
Yes, exactly.
How would that work in principle in terms of who gets to decide how to turn it on and off?
I guess we need to invite Antoine for this.
So one idea that was suggested before was, instead of having a specific like cutoff point where everything switches over and the whole network is on SHA3, it would be a slow transition whereby first every 1 in 10 blocks is SHA3, then after a month every 2 in 10, and so on until you reach all of the blocks. So that if there is a bug, it would only affect at first 10% of blocks, and the rest of the network could still operate in theory.
So just for a knowledge reference, who are going to be the actual individuals that are responsible for integrating the SHA3, I guess, code integration into the, appropriate clients, miners? How, that's a little vague to me. How is all that going to be handled? Who are those people?
As far as I know, it's already
ETC
implemented. Yeah.
All right, I'll
Well,
just
right
keep
now,
watching closely. It's just not my area. It's just very, 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 very cautious. So
yeah, currently ETC Co-op is the only main team that's developing or maintaining the clients, so it will be their responsibility at this point.
awesome. It'll be a high focus area for all of us going forward then. All right, cool. Thanks, man.
No worries. Thanks for the question. Any other questions from the audience?
I gotta go, guys. Thank you very much, Istora.
Thanks, Donald. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
I'm good.
Okay, well, I think now's a good time to wrap things up. So thank you for joining us, everyone. And we will see you next week. This has been recorded, so we can probably upload it soonish. So yeah, thanks for joining. Take care. Bye-bye.